My name is James Graves, and welcome to another edition of Night Journey Rewind, the podcast. I had the opportunity of meeting this musician, I have to say longer than 7 years ago, because when I interviewed him before, I was living in Seattle, Washington, and I'm back in Southern California. But they said that this gentleman ranked first place in the Rising Star Tenor Saxophonist of 2019. He has a brand new project out that's been out about maybe 4 or 5 months now, and it's called Right Now, Dayna Stephens Quartet, live at the Village Vanguard. Dayna, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great, James. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
Hey, man. We got to talk about this CD, but first, tell us, how were you able to land and do a recording at the legendary Village Vanguard?
Well, I had played there a few times since 2007 with Kenny Barron, and I played there once with Gerald Clayton and a couple times with Al Foster and Fred Hirsch even once a few years ago. And, you know, it came to the time where they asked me if I wanted to lead a group there, and I was ecstatic. You know, I'd asked before, but I really wasn't ready, I don't think, or prominent on the scene at that point. So, yeah, when they gave me the call, I was super excited. And this group I've been loosely working with, not this exact same group, but with Aaron and Greg and other situations out in Europe before, and Ben and many other situations as well. So, yeah, when they gave me the call, I already knew which band I wanted to go for, and there it was.
Now, you got a great story that I read up on about your first, I don't know if it was your first, but I think this time is when you were seeing a recording on video. I think it was on beta. And you were looking at Johnny Griffith, and he was at the Village Vanguard. Talk about that.
Yeah. It was one of the first visuals I had of people playing real, well, I don't want to say real jazz, but like New York straight ahead jazz. I see videos of maybe smooth jazz, you know, I think Bet on Jazz had a jazz show. And I heard a couple cats on that show maybe when I was younger. Johnny Griffin at the Vanguard was the one that really sticks out to me as like my real introduction to the jazz scene. And then, you know, I'll never forget. I remember I think there's only 4 songs. They really stretched out on each one of those songs. And for me, I grew up in the Bay Area, but I was born in New York. So it was also sort of my introduction into the New York scene, a place I knew I was born and hopefully would go back to, but it, you know, had never really been to as a conscious human being. So, you know, so hearing Johnny there, that was my introduction to New York and jazz. And finally, when I came here to New York to finally, you know, see a show there, and actually, and to now have the honor of having a recording from there, it's a surreal situation for the 13-year-old inside of me, you know, who only dreamed of something like this. So,
right. You know, not to cut you off, and I hope I didn't, but
no.
But you know, now me, a jazz. I mean, I love jazz. Okay, even though I'm a late bloomer, I told you that before. But when I started really getting into it and then seeing the spots where these cats were playing, and the cats who were playing there from like Diz to Miles to Blakey to, you know, Dexter Gordon, you know, Joe Hendon, and the list just goes on, Mingus and all. It must have had some type of a good, interesting vibe for you to play and also to record in this legendary club.
Yeah. I mean, you know, all those records you bring up, all those incredible artists, I've listened to their recordings from, you know, especially Coltrane and Sonny Rollins, a trio he did in '57 there with Elvin Jones as a teenager. There's so, you know, Joshua Redman's actually record was probably maybe the first one I heard live at the Vanguard, aside from that videotape that my grandfather had of Johnny Griffin. I remember very vividly just overdosing on Josh Redman's Freedom of the Spirit, I think it's called, or Spirit of the Moment, excuse me. That's what it's called, Spirit of the Moment.
Right.
And that's, you know, it's just it's an incredible record, man. And it was highly influential on me coming up as a saxophonist from the Bay Area.
I
So
heard
yeah,
that.
man, none of those. That history is never lost on me going into that club, even if I'm coming there as a listener. You know, it's just knowing that all those masters of this language did some of the best work,
Right
and
there. Right.
right there, yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting. The first time I went to New York, I had to go there. I really wish, I don't know, was it Blakey who I saw there? I can't remember who it was that I saw, and went downstairs. And when I got into the club itself, I just stood there for about 2 or 3 minutes and said, "Oh my God, I am in a club where, you know, legends from legends from legends from legends, creators of this great African American classical art form, and I'm just a listener. I'm not even a performer, but just
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but just knowing the history of that club is just exciting, real exciting."
yeah. It's real, man. It's a real film.
My name is James Graves. This is Night Journey Rewind, and we're visiting with Dayna Stephens. It's a 2-disc CD.
Yeah, we recorded 2 nights there, Saturday and Sunday of that week, and we had quite a bit of material, man, and all of it had, it was really the best 2 nights of the run that we had there. We're really familiar with the music, very loose with it, creating new forms with some of the stuff as we're going. And, I wanted to. Well, I never put out a double disc, but I really wanted to get the full effect of the experience of that weekend.
Well, what's interesting? I was listening to, I hope I'm not going to tear up the name, but is it called Blake's Groove?
Oh, Blakonian. It's for Jonathan Blake.
Right.
Yeah, for Jonathan Blake, the drummer. Yeah.
And so was that a synthesizer?
It's called Electronic Wind Instrument. I also use it on the track called Radioactive Earworm.
Right.
It can, it's basically like a synthesizer that you play like a saxophone. It has a breath sensor where it picks up my breath for volume, and it fingers just like a saxophone, but it is a synthesized sound. So I have some sounds on board of that instrument, as well as I have my computer and my iPad set up, and I have sounds going through that as well. Yeah.
Listening to your music, you stretched it. You've, like I said, you have a couple of pieces that you used your synthesizer on. Then you had some, I always like to use offbeat but on beat. Artists like Don Cherry, Ornette Coleman, Eric Dolphy, because of their abstract style. Then, with your mainstream and you're straight ahead, man. Let me tell everybody right now, while we're talking about it, you need to get it. It's an excellent CD.
Appreciate that.
When they gave you the invitation and said, hey, man, we want you to come in and record, I mean, what was your, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to dig in deep, but what was your first initial reaction when they asked you?
I was pretty shocked, man. I mean, I was actually playing I was playing a gig at Smoke when I got that news. Yeah, it was at the end of the gig, and the guy who books at the Vanguard happened to be at the show, and he said, hey man, it's time. Let's talk about a week. And I was like, and it was just very simple like that. I was like, well, you just kind of changed my whole vibe here with those few words. But yeah, let's talk about it. So there it was.
Now, on a personal note, do you feel since they came to you, they say, hey man, it's time. Let's do this. Do you feel not egotistically, but you say, wow, have I really kind of made it now?
Yeah, I don't even know what made it means at this point. I think there was a figment of what that meant when I was younger, but
right.
I'm just appreciating every day, man. The ego, I try to keep it in its proper place and realize that it's just it's really sometimes a figment of my imagination. It doesn't help me really be my best as a human being when I think, in those terms. So, but yeah, I mean, it definitely, I think in terms of self-esteem, one might be able to see it as.
Right.
I'm pretty hard on myself. I'm a kind of a perfectionist, so it was a bit of confirmation that I should probably not be as hard on myself as I often am, musically speaking. But yeah, man, no, it's a real, the feeling I most had was just a feeling of honor. I mean, and also a feeling of responsibility, because I don't know. I mean, not that I'm not up to the task, but
right,
I mean,
right.
just knowing again all the cats that have played at that. All my heroes that have played at that club,
and now you're included in that club.
Yeah, sure.
Hey man, I mean, I hear where you're coming from, but then at the same time, man, and there's definitely an even level here, where it doesn't go crazy. But as you just said, Now you're part of that. Well, you didn't say it, I'm saying it. But now, you're part of that
Yeah,
club. And that's just a reality, man. I mean, besides just
yeah.
playing at the Vanguard, you've now got music recorded at the Village Vanguard. And that's all I'm saying.
No, it is a milestone for me,
Right.
and actually, that feeling had much to do with why the title is what it is as
Mm-hmm.
well. It's kind of like, for me, my first record was called The Timeless Now, and this kind of rounds, for me, um, puts a nice button on this whole chapter uh, thus far of my life in New York, and my career as a recording artist, honestly. And things are gonna probably open up in terms of textures and compositions and groups. I mean, things have always been fluctuating in terms of groups, but it's obviously a big marker in my career and in my
Right,
life.
right,
So
right.
it's I wanted the title, and honestly, the title also really points to really living in the moment. Both titles do, really, but really reminding myself in a lot of ways that everything that happened then in this recording, or that will ever happen, will always happen in the present moment, and that's really the most important thing. So.
I hear you there. My name is James Graves. This is Night Journey Rewind, and we're visiting with Dayna Stephens, tenor saxophonist Dayna Stephens. You know, I hear where you're coming from, and to relating with me, you know, the first time I had, when I really decided to start doing interviews with these cats, you know, with these musicians, and to be able to now say, man, I interviewed and was with Philly Joe Jones, Billy Higgins, Red Calendars, The Skipper, Clifford Jordan, Cedar Walton, you know, Tootie Heath, and the list goes on. And by having a lot of these in recordings, it's just like, you're absolutely right. It just takes me to another. I mean, this is recorded. Ain't no disputing this.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and they were so cool because, like I told you before, you know, I was really, really naive of jazz. I just know that it did something to me that none of the other music did, and I love R&B. So, but it was a different type of a vibe. So to actually be able to sit down, and I was asking some stupid questions, bro, but these cats were so cool, and just really explained it to me, and didn't look at me like, oh man, what's this guy been doing? Oh, this cat is hungry and he wants to know. So I contribute a lot of that to that. It's a beautiful thing, bro. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful thing indeed.
Yeah. Now you've got some songs on here like JFK International, Smoking Gun, Loosey Goosey, Planting Flower. How do you come up with these names? Or how's that vibe? How does that work?
Yeah, well, for each one of those, I mean, JFK has a kind of liftoff kind of feeling in the way the song is written. It starts off with this kind of stutter kind of rhythm, as if you're taking off on the runway, and then there's that section, the middle section is when you're in flight, and then that last section is when you're kind of gliding back down to earth. So, and you know, so and JFK also is just I don't know. It's a place that I don't like very much, and I wanted to write a song that that gave me a better feeling of that place, if you know what I mean. So it just kind of it all came together with that title. And let's see, Loosey Goosey is a rhythm changer, and it has a very loosey kind of melody to it. So that's where that one. And what was the other one you said? I can't remember.
Oh, I was
Smoking Gun.
Smoking Gun and Planting Flowers.
Oh, Planting Flowers is an Aaron Parks tune, but it's really about just you know, I've never asked him about the title of that tune, but to me, it's just like it always lands in these nice, happy, unexpected places, and that's it's just, you know, in terms of the harmony. Smoking Gun is basically I don't know if you know the term contrafact, but it's basically like what a lot of bebop tunes are. They write a new melody over an existing set of chord changes, and that's basically what Smoking Gun is. I took Thelonious Monk's tune, which is called Evidence, and I just added some new stuff to it, new melody and some new harmony, and it's so Evidence, you know, the highest form of evidence, people call it Smoking Gun, and that's where the title comes from. So,
oh wow, well, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now we all just got a little education now. Well, for those who don't know, like me.
Yeah, and funny enough, Monk's tune, which is called Evidence, is the contrafact itself on a standard tune called Just You, Just Me. And the way he came up with Evidence is that just you, just me is just us, which is justice, and then for justice you need evidence. So it's kind of taking that whole theme and extending it even a little further, you know.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Okay.
A little more history there.
You know, let's go back down for a second. Some of your favorite, and I mean, there's so many, and I want you to be fair, and I know you want to be fair, but who were some of the strongest musicians that really influenced the sound that Dayna Stephens has now?
You mean in terms of the timbre or playing or
Both,
like?
both.
Yeah, well, there is a lot, man. I mean, one of the first sounds I heard that really spoke to me was Charlie Rouse. He's
Oh
actually the
yes.
saxophone player
Oh yeah.
that played with Monk,
Right, right, right.
and Sonny Rollins, big time. Lester Young, Warren Marsh, I'd say. I mean, there's really a long list of influences of guys that I just overdosed on at
Hmm.
certain periods of my life. Michael Brecker, although I don't have his sound, I really appreciate his playing and his
Right.
musical mind and his facility on the saxophone. It's just pretty remarkable. I mean, pretty. I don't know if anyone's gotten there yet, honestly. But let's see. Chris Potter, I'd say. I don't know if I said Mark Turner already. Stan Getz, Lee Konitz, Jerry Mulligan, Ralph Moore, someone I studied with when I was in LA.
Okay. Right. I know Ralph.
But, man,
Well, you know,
and there's so many I'm leaving out.
right. Well, here's and I want everybody to know this. I don't want to get a whole bunch of calls saying, "Man, what's wrong with you?" But a few of the tunes that I was listening to on your CD, to me, you sounded a lot like Joe Henderson.
Oh yeah, well, huge. Yeah, I did I not mention him in the beginning?
No,
So
no.
I think I may have. Well, there's a few there. Well, Wayne Shorter is obviously. I had a chance to study with him. I was at the then Thelonious Monk Institute, but currently Herbie Hancock Institute. I saw Joe Henderson a bunch. Well, maybe 4 or 5 times when I was a kid, living in the Bay Area. He actually lived in San Francisco, but he played
Right,
at Yoshi's a number of times.
right, right,
Yeah, huge influence on me. All periods of Joe Henderson, but I really fell in love with the later periods of Joe because he had such a very personal sound. And there's, of course, that State of the Tenor record he did trio at the Village Vanguard with Al Foster and Ron Carter. Wayne Shorter, and I would say George Coleman as well. I really loved George. He's still alive, obviously, and plays here in New York City when things are in normal times. Jimmy Heath, I saw and played a few tunes with, but he used to teach at Stanford Jazz Workshop many years that I was there. I mean, man, really the list. I mean, I mentioned Josh Redman earlier. Dave
right.
Ellis is another great cat I admire who lives in the Bay Area, who also went to high school with Josh and played with many bands of his own.
Right,
Charlie
right.
Hunter. I mean, Kenny Brooks. I mean, there's really
Right.
just
The list could just go on and on and on and on. Right.
yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
great group of cats, man, and I understand, but I just always been really inquisitive on you wanted to develop your own sound, which you have done. It's always work in progress. But
Yeah.
at the same time, man, I just always really curious to hear, well, I like this lick from this cat. The melody, how he
Uh,
put that together on that sound, and let's see how I can kind of develop that into my sound.
a lot of it is natural. You know how sometimes you pick up the manner. Well, first of all, you pick up the mannerisms of your biggest influence, your parents, your siblings, if you have older siblings. But then you start having friends in school, and you start picking up their little mannerisms, and it's not even a conscious thing. It's really a product of hanging and around or spending time with those people. And it continues. Like there's people that I listen to more recently, and I find just listening to them intently a lot, it just naturally seeps in. Now, a lot of people are into transcribing, and for me, I know enough of myself that if I listen to them a lot, I'm going to pick up more than I probably want to, and I'm comfortable with just that. So I'm not one that transcribes a lot. I'm more one that just listens to like the same thing over and over again, and really just almost like I said before, I overdose on these things, and then I kind of move on. And in the amalgamation of all of these years of, and a lot of them are not even saxophone players. I mean, a lot of them are piano players. Pat the Treasure playing with like Aaron Parks and Brad Meldau and Kenny Barron, of course. I mean, these guys are also influences, but you just don't hear them because I'm playing a different instrument.
Right.
Guitarists like Kurt Rosenwinkel was a huge influence on me. Wes Montgomery, Peter Bernstein, So I can go, I can really go and well, Freddie Hubbard, for Christ's sake. I mean, he is just one of the baddest cats that ever played that instrument, like hands down.
Right.
Clifford Brown, Lee Morgan. I mean, all these cats I super, super love. So,
right.
But yeah, I mean, Joe Henderson, I probably overdosed on him, maybe the most out of anyone, but there's also a very heavy Wayne period for me as well. And Coltrane very early on, which all of those players who were influenced by themselves. And Dexter Gordon, I didn't say that before.
Right. Well, like you said, man, there's so many, man. There are so many, and I never really realized until I really started understanding the music and understanding instruments, how that same tenor saxophone can take on so many different personalities, and 3/4 of it, as you said, it's the person who's playing it, and how their personality perceives going through their instrument. So I hear you there, man. Definitely hear you there.
Yeah.
My name is James Graves. This is Night Journey Rewind, and we're having a great conversation with tenor saxophonist Dayna Stephens. So, how are you doing through this pandemic, man?
Hey, man, I'm alive. I'm teaching. I'm playing. I'm writing. I'm not playing as much, but I am writing. I'm thankful for that, man. And I just I'm like everyone. I imagine well, like most of us, like many of us. I'll say that. I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I'm just saddened by what I see, by the division, by the pain, by the loss, and just the the division, man. It's
Right.
no matter what side of anything you're on,
Right.
it's the fact that there's a that jazz right now is where we're having our deepest, truest, sincere conversations right now. Shouldn't be the case,
Right.
Um, so
Well,
I,
I never thought that. Well, you really can't predict the future, but I never thought
no,
that I would live through this type of an era. I never, I guess my best thing, never saw this coming.
yeah,
And when my parents talk about the depression, and I'm saying, oh wow, well, I'm glad I never had to live through that and this. But now look what we're living
yeah,
through. We're living through a pandemic that can actually take you out. The
yep,
depression, people were
yeah,
taking themselves out. But this one here, the pandemic. So it's just a whole different time, and I do agree with you. There's a lot of things in this country that needs to change. But I've never seen this country, almost looking like a third world country now. People over at other places used to look at us with respect. Now they're looking at us like, wow, I never saw
yeah,
this coming in the United States. But anyway, that's a different story for a different time, bro. We talking about good.
yeah,
We're talking about good
yeah,
music. You got a new CD out. It's been out about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months now, and it's called Right Now.
right now.
Right
That's right.
now, Dayna Stephens Quartet live at the Village Vanguard. Brother, people want to get a hold to it or get a copy of the CD. How can they do it?
The best way that helps me or all artists these days, I would say, is through Bandcamp. All the money goes to the artists, and I really it would warm my heart if all of the music community would drop everything and go to something like that,
Mm-hmm.
because Spotify and these places, I mean, they're great. And I understand on budget, it's actually great to expose to people the stuff that they wouldn't necessarily buy, but they at least kind of check it out. And I understand it, but if we want to really support our arts, and as you're saying, this is a very trying time for artists of any genre or in many other actually obvious industries. But I think the most direct way to support artists is Bandcamp.
Cool. Very
And
cool. All right, brother. As always, it was good talking to you, man. Continued
yeah,
success on
likewise,
this.
man.
Continued success on this CD. Stay in touch as always, man. Let's just stay in touch and
Absolutely.
be safe out there.
All right, you too, man. Thanks a lot.
All
Yeah,
right.
have a good one.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
My name is James Graves. This is Night Journey Rewind, and we've been visiting with Dayna Stephens. Take care, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, you too, man. Take care.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aaron Parks on the piano. Mr. Ben Street on the bass. Incredible Mr. Gregory Hutchinson on the drums. Yours truly, Dayna Stephens. Thank you very much for coming out, you guys. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again soon. Take care.